I still remember the way the wind bit at my skin that morning. The cold metal bench at the train station pressed into my back as I sat there, staring blankly down the tracks, bags piled up at my feet. People rushed past me, faces blurred, lives moving forward, while mine had come to a sudden, screeching halt. I shifted my weight, adjusting the strap of the duffel bag, cutting into my shoulder. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore, because Emily was gone, without a word, without a fight, without a goodbye. One moment, we were a family, her, me, and our two little ones, Maddie and Jack, chasing each other around the kitchen, laughing like the world outside didn't exist. The next, it was like they had vanished into thin air. I glanced at the ticket still clutched in my hand. The edges crumpled from how tightly I'd been holding it. We were supposed to leave together, start fresh in a new town, a new life, away from everything that had been weighing us down. I thought we were on the same page. I thought love was enough. But standing there, alone under the wide, gray sky, all I had was the echo of her last words from the night before. I'll meet you there. Trust me. I did trust her. God, I trusted her more than I trusted myself. When the departure announcement crackled through the speakers overhead, a tight knot formed in my chest. Hope flickered for just a second. Maybe she was running late. Maybe there was traffic. Maybe, but deep down I knew she wasn't coming. Maddie's little pink scarf was still tucked into my jacket pocket, the one she refused to take off even in summer. Jack's favorite stuffed dinosaur peeked out from the top of my backpack, one small arm dangling over the zipper like it was waving goodbye. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It was like someone had pressed pause on my life, and I was stuck there, frozen in a moment that refused to end. People were starting to stare. I heard the whispers. Poor guy. Did she leave him? Where's his family? I lowered my head, wishing I could disappear. My heart cracked a little more with every passing second, humiliation washing over me in heavy, stinging waves. I wasn't just heartbroken. I wasn't just abandoned. I was lost. Everything we had built, every dream we had shared, it all felt like a cruel joke now, slipping through my fingers no matter how tightly I tried to hold on. And the worst part? I had no answers, no warning signs, no fights leading up to it. Just emptiness where a future used to be. As the train roared past, sending a gust of wind strong enough to nearly knock me over, I caught sight of my reflection in the station window. A man with hollow eyes stared back at me. A man who had no idea where it all went wrong. I slung my bag over my shoulder and forced myself to walk away, every step heavier than the last. The cold settled into my bones, but I didn't feel any more. The only thing I felt was her absence, her voice, her laughter, the way her hand fit so perfectly in mine. All of it haunted me with every breath I took. I kept asking myself, over and over, what did I miss? What did I do wrong? But no matter how many times I rewound our life together in my mind, I never found the answer. Not then, not for years. It would take a lifetime to finally understand why she left that day. And when I did, it changed everything. I wake up every morning to the deafening silence of a house that used to be filled with laughter, the soft thuds of little feet running across the floor, the sound of Emily's voice calling out for me to grab the milk before I leave for work. It's all gone now, in its place. There's only emptiness, an emptiness that no amount of work or distractions can fill. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect a betrayal. I didn't expect to be standing here alone, trying to hold together pieces of a life I thought I had everything figured out. But here I am, scrambling to make sense of a shattered world. Work has become my refuge. The endless pile of emails, meetings, and projects, each one a small task to keep my mind from wandering back to her, back to the day she left, the day everything fell apart. I pushed through the workday with mechanical precision, barely able to keep up with the constant flow of tasks. My co-workers barely speak to me anymore. They don't need to. I see the pity in their eyes when they glance at me from across the room. They gossip, I'm sure of it. I hear snippets of their conversations when I pass by the break room, their voices dropping to a whisper when I enter. Did you hear? Ryan's wife just left him. Yeah, and the kids. Now he's got full custody. Can you believe it? The words sting more than I care to admit. They don't know the truth. They don't know how Emily's departure wasn't just a decision made overnight, how it was calculated, planned. The more I think about it, the more the anger surges within me. But it's not just the gossip at work that cuts deep. My family, my own flesh and blood, has started distancing themselves too. I catch my mother's eyes, red-rimmed with tears, but she says nothing. She doesn't need to. I see the way she looks at me, like I'm the one who failed, like I'm the one who ruined everything. I tried talking to my dad about it once. I was looking for some kind of advice, maybe a bit of understanding. He looked at me, his face hard, his mouth tight. You should have seen it coming, Ryan. You let it happen. It's like I'm the problem. Like I'm the one who didn't do enough, even though I gave everything I had to this family. I'm drowning in a sea of guilt, and there's no one to throw me a lifeline. But then, something else comes crashing into my world. A small piece of paper, a legal document, handed to me by a lawyer with a neutral expression. It's Emily's will. It's the last thing I ever wanted to see, but I knew it was coming. Emily had always been practical. She planned everything down to the smallest detail, and even in her absence, she still found a way to control what happens next. I read the document in a daze. At first, it all blurs together. The technicalities, the legal jargon, the language that feels foreign. But then my eyes land on one line. In the event of my passing or incapacitation, I appoint Ava Clark as the legal guardian for our children. I feel the blood drain from my face as I read it again. Ava, not me. I've been the one raising them, loving them, being there every single day. And now, Emily has decided that Ava, someone from her past, will be the one to take care of the kids if anything happens. As if I wasn't capable enough to do it myself. As if my love for them didn't matter. I feel betrayed, deeply, painfully betrayed. Emily's last words to me, her final decision, feel like a slap in the face. A cold reminder that I was never enough, never good enough. It's hard to accept, and even harder to let it go. I sit in the small office, the legal document resting in front of me like a cruel joke. There's nothing I can do. The law is clear. Emily made her choice, and as much as I want to fight it, there's nothing I can do. Not legally, not in any way that matters. I want to scream. I want to throw this piece of paper out the window and forget everything. Forget her. Forget the betrayal. Forget the way I've been left to pick up the pieces of my life, with no one to help me. But the kids, they need me. They need me more than anything. I can't give up. I can't let them see me break. Even though I'm falling apart inside, I'm all they have now. And yet, as I sit there, a thought lingers in the back of my mind. Ava, who is she really? What is she to Emily? What does this mean for my future, for the kids' future? I don't know the answers yet, but I'm starting to realize that the road ahead is going to be far more complicated than I ever imagined. The gym was packed. The air was thick with excitement, the kind of buzz that only a school event could bring. Kids ran around in all directions, their laughter and shouts echoing off the walls as parents and teachers tried their best to keep some semblance of order. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, feeling like a complete outsider in a crowd that was far too familiar with one another. I wasn't supposed to be here. I was just helping out, reluctantly, as a favor to a friend. But when she asked me to come and keep an eye on things, just for an hour, she said I had no idea it would end up being the kind of nightmare that made me wish I had stayed home. And then I saw her, Ava. She was standing near the far side of the gym, a gentle smile on her face as she knelt down to speak with a group of younger kids. They were hanging on to her every word, her voice calm and soothing, but with an underlying strength that made them listen. It was like they could feel the warmth she gave off, a kind of quiet power that didn't need a shout to be heard. I don't know why, but I felt an immediate pull, a curiosity that I couldn't shake. I had seen her around the school a few times, always keeping to herself, always avoiding my gaze, always too perfect, too unapproachable. It wasn't that I didn't like her. No, it was something more complex. I resented her, or at least, I resented the way she seemed to have everything in control, the way she carried herself like some untouchable ideal. It wasn't fair. I was a guy who had spent so long running from my own emotions, so long pretending everything was okay, that anyone who wore their heart on their sleeve, especially in front of others, was just another reminder of how messed up I felt. But then there was something in the way she moved, in the way she reached down to fix the shoes of one of the kids, her fingers brushing against his small, chubby hand as she smiled at him. It wasn't just that she was beautiful, though, God, was she, but it was the way she cared. I could see it in her eyes, this soft tenderness that wrapped around the kids like a warm blanket. I couldn't understand why she'd chosen to raise them on her own, why she was here, so far removed from the rest of the crowd. Something told me there was more to her story than just being the kind, perfect teacher everyone praised. She caught my gaze just for a second, and in that fleeting moment, I saw something that I hadn't expected, a guardedness, a quiet barrier that went up as soon as our eyes met, like she wasn't ready for whatever it was that I might bring. It made me feel like an intruder in her world, a world where I didn't belong. I shifted uncomfortably, looking away before I could make it more awkward. Why did she look at me like that? Was it because of the way I'd avoided her for so long? Was it because I hadn't even bothered to really see her before now? The kids ran past me, chasing each other in a game of tag, and I almost stumbled when one of them bumped into my leg. I glanced over, only to find Ava looking at me again, her brow furrowed. She was watching me, like she was waiting for me to say something. But I had nothing to say, nothing I could offer that wouldn't feel like a lie. For a long moment, I stood there, caught between wanting to say something to her, to explain myself, and the strange pull I felt toward her that I didn't understand. She was more than just a teacher, more than just a caretaker. She was something else, something I wasn't sure I was ready to face. Before I could even gather my thoughts, she was gone, swept up by another group of parents who had come to talk to her. I watched her walk away, her posture still perfect, her face unreadable. But there was something in the way she walked that made my heart clench, a certain sadness hidden deep inside her that I couldn't quite put my finger on. It was as though she was always carrying something with her, a weight that no one else could see. And then, just like that, she disappeared into the crowd. I stood there for a long while, still staring at the spot where she had been, unsure of what I was feeling. I didn't want to care. I shouldn't care. But something about her, something about the way she loved those kids, the way she guarded herself around me, had me hooked. And the strangest part of all was I had no idea what I was supposed to do with it. But one thing was clear. This was just the beginning. Something about her story, about the way she carried her pain, was going to change everything for me. And I wasn't sure I was ready for that. I couldn't believe it. I felt the world around me stop, like time itself had betrayed me. The news hit me like a freight train, crushing, disorienting, and devastating. Emily was gone. She had passed away over a year ago. A car accident, they said. A simple, cruel twist of fate that stole her from this world. And I had no idea. I stared at Ava, my heart hammering in my chest. Her face, usually composed, was now filled with a deep sorrow, her eyes red from holding back tears. I had been so wrapped up in the present, in my own feelings for Ava, that I hadn't even considered Emily's absence. She'd always been the one constant in my life, and yet somehow I had missed her final moment. Ava, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't anyone tell me? I asked, my voice trembling, disbelief spreading through my veins. She lowered her gaze, taking a deep breath before speaking. Ryan, Emily made me promise not to. In her will, she said you needed to move on. She didn't want you to grieve for her, not when you had your whole life ahead of you. Her voice cracked, as if the words themselves were choking her. My mind spun, my heart shattered into pieces. The one person I thought I could never live without, my Emily, had been gone for over a year, and no one had told me. No one had even given me the chance to say goodbye. The anger bubbled up first. Why didn't I know? Why had they kept this from me? But it wasn't just anger. It was guilt. So much guilt. I could feel it gnawing at my soul, a dark weight settling heavily in my chest. If I had only known, if I had just paid attention to the signs, maybe I could have saved her. I pushed myself up from the couch, pacing back and forth in the small living room. I should have been there, Ava. I should have known something was wrong. I failed her. Ryan, Ava's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts. She moved toward me, her hands outstretched, like she was afraid I might break. I didn't deserve her kindness. Not now. Not after all of this. You couldn't have known. You couldn't have saved her. It wasn't your fault. I stopped, my breath coming in sharp gasps as my mind replayed every moment I had spent with Emily. Her laughter, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about the future, the way we had planned our lives together. And now, all those plans were gone. I was left with nothing but empty memories. Nothing I could do would bring her back. Ava reached for my hand, gently pulling me to face her. Her touch was warm, a quiet comfort amidst the chaos in my chest. "It's okay to grieve, Ryan," she whispered, her voice soft but firm. "It's okay to feel broken right now. You loved her, and she loved you. That doesn't just disappear." The tears I had been holding back finally spilled over, and I let myself sink into the moment. I buried my face in her shoulder, my whole body shaking with grief. The tears flowed freely now, the weight of everything I had carried for so long pouring out of me. I had lost Emily, and I didn't even know how to begin to cope. But here was Ava, holding me, comforting me in a way I never expected. Her vulnerability in this moment was like a shield, wrapping around my broken heart, offering solace when I felt so lost. She stroked my back softly, her fingers gentle against my skin. "You don't have to be strong all the time," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Let me be strong for you, Ryan, just for tonight. Let me help you heal." I pulled away slightly, looking into her eyes. There was so much pain in her gaze, so much tenderness, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone as I had thought. Her strength wasn't just in her actions, but in how she held space for me in my weakest moment. But there was something else. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on. A question I hadn't dared ask myself. What was this? What was I feeling for Ava right now? Could I truly let go of Emily's memory, or had I just found something new to cling to in the face of loss? I didn't know the answer. Not yet. But as I stood there, wrapped in Ava's arms, her comfort the only thing keeping me grounded, I realized that the road ahead would be complicated. The emotions swirling inside me weren't just grief anymore. There was something more, something deeper. And I couldn't help but wonder, what would happen next? It felt like the universe was conspiring against me, pushing me closer to Ava with every turn. Our school was in crisis. Funding cuts, bullying issues, the works. It was a mess, and the administration had one idea to save us all, a fundraiser event. A huge one. And somehow, Ava and I were chosen to head it. At first, I thought it was a joke. I mean, why me? Why Ava? Sure, we've been friendly in the past, but we weren't exactly the dream team. I couldn't remember the last time we'd actually had a real conversation. Not since everything had changed between us. The tension was still there, hanging like an unspoken question between us. But here we were, forced to work together. I met her in the teacher's lounge, feeling a pit of nerves I couldn't shake. Ava sat at the table, a cup of coffee in front of her, fingers tapping on her phone. She looked like she was deep in thought. But when I sat down, her eyes flicked up to meet mine. That same flicker of recognition, maybe even warmth, but underneath it, something different. Something I couldn't quite place. "Looks like we're stuck with each other," I said, trying to keep my tone light. She smiled, but it was one of those small, guarded smiles, like she wasn't entirely sure whether to trust me or not. "Yeah, lucky us," she replied, her voice soft, but there was an edge to it. She set her phone down, folding her hands in front of her like she was ready to get down to business. "We should probably start planning. The event's in 2 weeks. I nodded, pulling out the papers the school had given us. The idea was a huge carnival-style event with booths, games, and a silent auction. Everything had to be perfect, or we risked losing even more support from the community. The weight of the responsibility hit me all at once, and I realized that the fate of the school was, in a way, in our hands. We could start with the biggest draw, maybe a raffle? I suggested, looking for any way to break the awkward silence between us. I glanced at Ava, who was already scribbling something in her notebook. "That's a good idea," she said, her voice a little warmer now. Her eyes were focused, but there was something else there too, something I hadn't seen before. "But we'll need prizes, and good ones. I'll handle reaching out to some businesses for donations. You can work on the games? Like, something fun but simple." I smiled. It was the first time we'd actually fallen into a rhythm, and for a moment, I felt like I was seeing her in a new light. There was a calm confidence about her I hadn't noticed before. She wasn't just a girl I used to know. There was more depth to her now. "Sounds like a plan," I said. The conversation wasn't exactly flowing, but it wasn't as painful as I thought it would be. I could tell she was invested in this, and that sparked something in me. Maybe it was the way she didn't hesitate to take charge, or the way she looked at the challenge in front of us like it was nothing she couldn't handle. As the next few hours passed, we began to divide tasks. But even in those small moments, when she leaned over the table to look at my notes, or when our fingers brushed while exchanging papers, there was this undeniable spark, a tension that hung in the air, but not the uncomfortable kind. The kind that made my heart race, that made me wonder if she felt it too. "Hey, we're actually getting somewhere," I said, trying to break the silence again. Ava glanced up at me, her lips curling into a smile. "Yeah, we are," she said, her eyes meeting mine, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, things were starting to shift between us. Like we weren't just co-workers. Maybe there was more to this partnership than I wanted to admit. As the meeting wrapped up, we stood up to leave, and for a brief second, our eyes locked. It was fleeting, but it was enough to make my heart skip a beat. "You know," Ava said quietly, a hint of something vulnerable in her voice, "I didn't think this would be so easy." I didn't know what to say to that. Instead, I just nodded, hoping that she didn't see the storm of emotions brewing inside me. I had no idea where this was going, but something told me that the sparks we were starting to feel, no matter how small, weren't going to fade anytime soon. And as she walked away, I couldn't help but think that this fundraiser might end up being the least of our problems. I walked into Emily's room, my footsteps quiet on the worn wooden floors. It felt like a strange, hollow echo of everything that used to be. The air was thick, heavy with memories of her laughter, her whispers, her touch. But she was gone now, and all that was left were these ghostly remnants. I ran my fingers along the edge of her old desk, a place where we'd spent hours together. Her sketchbook sprawled open, my favorite novel between us. But today it was just dust and silence. As I moved further into the room, I noticed an envelope sticking out from underneath a pile of papers on her bed. My heart stuttered for a moment. I wasn't sure what I expected, but somehow this felt like a sign. Without thinking, I grabbed it, the paper crinkling slightly in my hands. The handwriting was unmistakable. Emily's delicate script, so full of life, yet now it seemed so distant. I slid the letter open with trembling hands, and as I read her words, the weight of her absence grew heavier. "Ryan, I don't know how to tell you this. I don't know if I can even explain it properly, but I need you to understand. I love you so much, but I can't be the person you need. I'm broken and I can't fix myself. I can't drag you down with me. Not like this. You deserve someone who can love you fully, without the darkness that shadows me. I'm so sorry. Please don't hate me. This is the only way I know how to protect you from the mess I've become." Each word felt like a dagger to my chest. The truth hit me like a freight train, my breath catching as I read it again and again, trying to make sense of it. She was battling depression. She thought she wasn't worthy of love. Emily, the vibrant, fiery, passionate woman I had known, felt this way? It didn't make sense. How could someone so full of life feel like they were suffocating in the dark? Tears blurred my vision as I sat down on the edge of the bed, the letter still clutched in my hand. I felt the guilt seep into me like cold water, drowning everything else. Had I not seen it? Had I been so blind to her pain that I couldn't see what she was going through? Her leaving had been an act of love, twisted and painful, but love nonetheless. She had thought she was protecting me from her struggles, from her sadness, from the weight of her mental health. And in doing so, she had torn herself away from me, But if only she had known. I wanted to scream, to curse the world for being so cruel. Why hadn't she come to me? Why hadn't she let me fight this battle with her? The ache in my chest deepened, the emptiness she left behind suddenly feeling so unbearable. I placed my face in my hands, my mind a blur of confusion, guilt, and heartache. She thought she wasn't good enough for me. She thought she had to leave to protect me. But I never wanted her to leave. I would have stayed, would have held her through the storm, if she had just let me. The more I thought about it, the more I understood her logic, even if it twisted my heart into knots. Emily had always been fiercely independent, her pride and strength shining through even in the toughest of times. But in the end, it wasn't strength that had made her leave. It was fear. Fear of being a burden. Fear of me seeing her as something less than perfect. Fear that I might not love her if I saw her broken. And in her heart, maybe she truly believed that I'd be better off without her, that the love we shared couldn't survive her darkness. But that wasn't true. She was wrong. A weight shifted inside me, a small sense of closure, though it didn't heal the wound. I now understood what had driven her away, what had been tormenting her for so long. But the questions lingered. Why hadn't I noticed sooner? What could I have done to help her feel safe enough to stay? I ran my fingers over the edges of the letter, my heart heavy with the need for something, anything, to ease this pain. The truth had set something inside me in motion, something I couldn't ignore. But it wasn't the end. Not yet. I had to find her. I had to make sure she knew, deep down, that I would have fought for her no matter how dark the fight was. The guilt was still there, but now there was something else, an unrelenting desire to make things right, to show her the truth of my love, and I would find a way to do it. As I stood up and stared at the letters in my hand, I realized that this was only the beginning. There was more to discover, more to understand. And as my heart raced with the promise of what was to come, I knew I couldn't rest until I knew where Emily was, and more importantly, until I told her what she needed to hear. I spent more time at Ava's house in those days than I'd ever planned. It started casually, just me helping out with the kids, or staying for dinner when I had no other plans. But slowly, like a tide creeping in unnoticed, it became part of my routine, and I couldn't imagine my days without it. The kids had their own way of making everything feel brighter, even on the darkest of days. Jackson, the youngest, always had a way of making me laugh, whether it was by showing off his latest dance move or jumping out from behind the couch with a grin that could only mean mischief. I remember one evening, we were sitting around a dinner table, and he suddenly reached across to steal a potato from my plate. I caught his hand just before he could grab it, and we both burst out laughing, his giggles infectious. Ava shook her head in mock disapproval, but even she couldn't hide her smile. "You can't leave him alone for a second," she said, her voice laced with affection, as she wiped her hands on the dish towel. "It's a full-time job, isn't it?" I replied, glancing at her. Ava met my gaze, her eyes soft with a warmth that felt like home. For a moment, the world outside didn't matter, just the quiet comfort of being there with her, the kids, the rhythm of life flowing easily between us. I realized, maybe for the first time, that it wasn't just about being there for kids. It was about being there for Ava. Later that evening, after the kids had been tucked into bed, I found myself on the back porch with her. The air was cool, the kind of cool that made you pull your sweater a little tighter around your shoulders. Ava was sitting on the swing, and I couldn't help but watch the way the light from the porch light made her hair shimmer, the gentle sway of the swing as she rocked back and forth. I sat beside her, not sure what to say, but feeling the weight of 1,000 unspoken things between us. "Thanks for helping out today," she said, her voice low. "I don't know what I'd do without you." I shrugged, trying to downplay it, but my heart was full. "It's nothing. You're doing a great job on your own, Ava." She paused for a moment, her eyes focused on the dark horizon. "I don't always feel like I am." Her voice cracked slightly, and I could feel the vulnerability in her words. There was a sadness in her that she usually kept buried, but tonight it seemed to slip through. I wanted to reach for her to say the right thing, but I wasn't sure what that was. So I simply let the silence linger, letting her gather her thoughts. I just, she sighed, her words trailing off. I feel like I'm betraying Emily sometimes. Like I'm not supposed to be happy. Like I'm moving on too soon. My heart ached at the mention of Emily's name. I had seen Ava struggle with the loss of her sister, and I knew it was something that would never fully go away. But the guilt in her voice, this fear that she was somehow wrong for even finding comfort with someone like me, hurt me deeply. You're not betraying her, I said gently, turning to face her. Ava, Emily would want you to be happy. She'd want you to find peace to live. Her eyes met mine, searching for sincerity. I could see the turmoil in them, the battle between the love she still held for Emily and the new feelings that were starting to stir inside her, feelings she wasn't ready to confront yet. You deserve to be happy, I continued, my voice steady, not letting her look away. I see it when you're with the kids, when you laugh, when you're just being yourself. You deserve that. Ava didn't respond right away, but I could see the way her shoulders relaxed, just a little, as though my words had settled into her heart. She smiled softly, the kind of smile that made my chest tighten, a smile that wasn't just for show, but one that spoke of something deeper, something real. We sat in silence for a few minutes, the only sound the quiet rustling of leaves in the wind. But in that silence, something shifted between us, something I couldn't quite name but knew was there. It wasn't just the shared moments with the kids or the playful evenings spent together. It was this, the way I was seeing her now, not as some replacement for Emily, not as someone I was helping because I felt obligated, but as Ava, a beautiful soul with her own kind of strength, her own kind of pain. And I realized in that moment that I wasn't just growing closer to her because of the kids. I was growing closer because I was starting to care for her in a way I hadn't expected, in a way that made my heart race every time she smiled at me. What I was feeling for her, it was more than just friendship, more than just gratitude. But how could she see it when she still carried so much of Emily's memory with her? The night air was cool, but my heart was burning. After the fundraiser ended and the last few guests trickled out, Ava and I stayed behind, half-heartedly pretending to clean up. Really, we just didn't want the night to end. The soft music still floated from the speakers, mixing with the quiet hum of the city beyond the open windows. She was standing by the dessert table, stacking plates into neat little piles, her hair falling over her face. I watched her for a long moment, feeling that strange, magnetic pull between us growing stronger by the second. When she looked up and caught me staring, she gave a small, tired smile. I can't believe we pulled it off, she said, her voice soft, almost a whisper. I crossed the room without thinking. We make a good team, I said. She laughed, a low, beautiful sound that wrapped around me and refused to let go. For a moment, everything, the fundraiser, the months of friendship, the unspoken feelings we kept locking away, hung in the air between us. She shifted, her hands fumbling with the stack of plates. Ryan, about everything, about us. The words stumbled out of her, unsure, fragile. I took a slow step closer. We don't have to pretend anymore, do we? I asked, my voice rough with all the things I hadn't dared to say. She looked up at me then, really looked at me. Her eyes were wide and shining, like she was standing at the edge of something she was terrified to jump into. But I could see it. She wanted to jump just as much as I did. Without another thought, I closed the distance. My hand found her cheek, trembling slightly, and I leaned in, heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear the music anymore. Her breath caught, and then we kissed. It wasn't planned. It wasn't careful. It was messy and urgent and full of everything we had been holding back for far too long. Her lips were soft and warm against mine, and for a fleeting, breathtaking moment, the world fell away completely. It was just her and me. Nothing else mattered. But then, as quickly as it started, it ended. Ava jerked back like she had been burned, her eyes wide with panic. "Oh, my God!" she gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Ava, I reached for her, but she stumbled backward, shaking her head. "I can't. Ryan, I can't." Her voice broke, and before I could say anything else, she turned and bolted toward the door. I stood there, frozen, the aftertaste of her still on my lips and my heart cracked wide open. The soft bang of the door echoed through the empty room. I pressed a hand to my chest, trying to steady the chaos inside me. I had no idea what had just happened. 1 minute, it felt like we were falling into something real, something inevitable. The next, she was gone, running like the ground had disappeared beneath her. I wanted to chase after her, to grab her and tell her it was okay, that whatever she was scared of, we could face it together. But my feet wouldn't move. Instead, I stood there, surrounded by the aftermath of the night, the half-eaten cake, the scattered balloons, the twinkling lights, and felt more alone than I had in a long, long time. I didn't know what this meant. I didn't know if she would come back. All I knew was that in that one kiss, everything had changed. And now, nothing would ever be the same. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through emails when I heard their voices. Ava's gentle laughter floated from the kitchen, followed by the soft murmur of the kids' excited chatter. I always enjoyed listening to their conversations. It was like hearing the world through their untainted eyes. They hadn't known much of life beyond the walls of this house, but every day they taught me something new about hope and tenderness. I leaned back, my heart still heavy from the conversation I'd had with Ava earlier. It had been a difficult one of those moments where the distance between us felt almost insurmountable. But I knew I couldn't give up on her, not after everything we had been through. As I absent-mindedly twisted the ring on my finger, my ears caught a phrase that made me freeze. I wish Miss Ava and Daddy would fall in love. Lucy's voice broke the quiet hum of the room. I paused, my hand stilling on the ring, my chest tightening at the sound of those words. Ava had always been more than just a nanny to these kids. She'd been their protector, their guide, their source of warmth when the world was too cold. But to hear Lucy, my little girl, say something so innocent, so full of hope, it did something to me. Yeah, came Jake's voice, the little rascal with a smile that could melt the hardest of hearts. Then we could all be a real family. A family like the ones in those stories Miss Ava reads to us at night. A lump formed in my throat. I was their father, their protector. But somewhere along the way, I'd allowed myself to let go of that dream of us all being one. Ava had always been a part of our lives, but I kept her at arm's length, unsure whether we could ever be more than what we were. But now, hearing their words, hearing how much they wanted it, how much I wanted it, it was like something inside me clicked into place. The kids had always believed in the possibility of a family. They believed in me and Ava, even when I had doubts. They didn't know the complicated web of emotions we had wrapped ourselves in, nor the hurt I'd caused by pushing Ava away when I needed her most. They saw something I couldn't see in myself, something pure, something hopeful. I found myself walking toward the kitchen, my heart beating faster with each step. I wasn't sure what I was going to say, but hearing their wish had somehow given me the courage to finally face Ava with the truth. As I entered the kitchen, Ava turned, her soft smile greeting me like a warm embrace. The kids were busy with their art projects on the table, completely oblivious to the weight of the moment. "Hey," I said, my voice a little unsure but filled with something new, something softer. Ava looked at me, her eyes full of questions. I could see the hesitance in her gaze, the same uncertainty I'd been feeling for so long. But in that moment, it didn't matter. It was as if the kid's secret wish had unlocked something inside me, something that had been buried deep down. I overheard something, I said, my heart pounding. Her brows furrowed slightly, a quiet concern in her expression. "What did you hear?" I took a deep breath, trying to find the words. But there was no need to be afraid anymore. The truth was right there in front of me. "The kids," I started, they wish we fall in love. They want us to be a real family." Ava blinked, her lips parting slightly in surprise. The kid's innocent hope had taken her off guard, just as it had me. "I know it's not as simple as that," I continued, stepping closer. But hearing them say it, it made me realize something. I've been so scared of what could happen if we tried. But maybe we should give it a chance. Maybe we should finally stop pretending that what we have isn't something worth fighting for. Ava didn't say anything right away, her eyes searching mine, like she was looking for something I wasn't sure I had the words to express. But I could see it. There was hope in her eyes, a spark that mirrored my own. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we could build a family we all deserved. I stood there, heart pounding so loud it echoed in my ears. The evening air was cool, carrying the faint scent of rain, and the world around us seemed to hold its breath. Ava was just a few feet away, standing under the soft glow of the porch light, her arms wrapped loosely around herself like she was holding something fragile inside. I had imagined this moment 100 times, practiced the words in my head, rehearsed how I would tell her how much she meant to me. But standing there now, none of the rehearsed speeches seemed enough. Taking a shaky breath, I closed the distance between us. Ava, I started, my voice rougher than I expected. I need to tell you something, and I don't want you to think it's just because I'm lonely or scared or confused. It's none of that. She looked up at me, those deep, familiar eyes searching mine. God, she was beautiful. Not just the kind of beautiful you notice in a crowd, but the kind that feels like home. The kind you can't ever forget, no matter how hard you try. I love you, I said, letting the words fall between us, raw and real. I love you for who you are, for every stubborn, brilliant, messy part of you. You've been my best friend, my safe place, and somewhere along the way, you became my everything. The silence that followed was heavy, but not empty. It was full of the weight of years we'd spent orbiting each other, too scared to step closer. Ava lowered her head, her hair falling forward like a curtain. For a terrifying second, I thought maybe I had ruined everything. Maybe I had crossed a line we couldn't come back from. But then, her shoulders shook, and when she looked up, there were tears shining in her eyes. Not sadness, something softer, something I hadn't dared hope for. I've loved you for so long, Ryan, she whispered, her voice breaking. I used to tell myself it was just a crush, that I would outgrow it. But the truth is, it never went away. It just got quieter. I tried to bury it, to hide it, because I thought I wasn't good enough to have a place in your heart. Hearing those words shattered something inside me, something old and heavy I hadn't even realized I was carrying. I reached for her hands, pulling them gently into mine. You've always had a place in my heart, Ava. I said, my throat tight. You always will. She let out a small, broken laugh, like she couldn't believe what was happening. Neither could I, honestly. It felt surreal, like stepping into a dream I didn't dare to wake up from. I brushed a strand of hair from her face, my fingers trembling. I don't want to waste another second wondering, what if I said, I want you, I want us, all the messy, complicated, beautiful parts. Ava looked at me like she was seeing the future for the first time, and it was filled with hope. Slowly, carefully, she leaned in, and when our foreheads touched, it was like the world tilted, realigning itself around us. No grand fireworks, no dramatic music, just two broken people finally finding their missing piece. I wrapped my arms around her, holding her close as if I could anchor this moment forever. She buried her face in my chest, and I felt her smile against my skin. Let's move forward, she whispered. Together. I nodded, tightening my hold on her. Together, I promised. For the first time in what felt like forever, the future didn't scare me. It was ours now, ours to build, ours to protect, ours to cherish. But just as I started to believe in this brand new beginning, something stirred in the back of my mind, a tiny whisper of doubt, a shadow from the past neither of us had dared confront yet. And deep down I knew our love was real, but the battles ahead might be even more real. It was a simple day, the kind where you realize that the world doesn't need to be grand to be perfect. I stood there at the altar, heart racing in a way I hadn't expected, a quiet thrill coursing through me. Everything felt right, yet so different from what I'd imagined. The room was small but warm, surrounded by the people who mattered most, just a handful of close friends and, of course, the kids. Ava stood across from me, radiant in her soft white dress. It wasn't anything extravagant, just something that made her glow in the light streaming to the windows, giving her an almost ethereal beauty. Her smile was soft, the kind I had never seen before, filled with more peace than I ever thought possible. She wasn't just my bride today. She was the mother of my children. She was everything. I glanced down at our kids. Standing beside us, Emma, holding her flower basket, looked up at me with wide eyes. She was nervous, a little unsure of the whole thing, but her smile was unmistakable. Max, holding a ring in his small hands, was every bit the tiny best man. He was the one to make sure everything went according to plan, his little face serious as he scanned the room. They were our best man and flower girl, and in this moment, they were everything. As the officiant spoke, my mind drifted to the journey that had brought us here. Every hardship, every tear, every moment of doubt, it all led to this one quiet moment. And despite everything we had been through, we had made it. We had built something together, not just love, but a life, a family. It wasn't perfect, not by a long shot, but it was ours, our imperfect, beautiful life. Ava reached out, taking my hands in hers, and my breath caught in my chest. Her eyes locked with mine, and for a moment, nothing else in the world mattered. There was just us, just this moment. "I vow to love you, Ryan," she said, her voice steady but thick with emotion. "To love you through all the laughter, through every tear, and even the silence. I vow to build with you, to be the partner you deserve, to heal together, and to never give up on us." I could feel the weight of her words in my chest, a pull I never expected to experience. Healing, second chances. It was all so simple, yet so profound. I had spent years running from the idea of love, of commitment, and here she was showing me that love didn't need to be perfect to be real, that second chances were possible, that we could be more than what we had been. Together, we had built something new, something that was just beginning. When it was my turn, I barely held it together. "Ava," I began, my voice cracking, "I don't think I could have imagined a life this beautiful without you in it. You show me that love isn't about getting everything right. It's about fighting through the mess and choosing to be better together. I vow to never take us for granted. I vow to always choose you, even when the world feels heavy. And I vow to be the man you and the kids deserve, because you are my everything." Ava's eyes shimmered, her lips curving into a smile that made everything feel whole. I couldn't help but smile back, knowing deep down that we were making something real. This wasn't just about a ceremony or a day. It was about the family we were choosing to become. As the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, I could barely hear the words over the rush of emotions flooding through me. I kissed Ava, and it felt like the world had shifted beneath our feet. The kids cheered, Emma throwing petals into the air as Max clapped, and for the first time in a long while, everything felt right. But as we walked down the aisle together, hand in hand, I couldn't help but wonder, what comes next for us? What challenges will we face as a family, as a couple? As the new chapter of our lives began, I knew one thing for sure. We were ready. The soft hum of the evening breeze brushed against my skin as I sat on the porch, watching the sun dip beneath the horizon. Ava was beside me, her hand gently resting in mine, a comfort I had never thought I would know. Our kids were running around the yard, laughing, their joy infectious. For a moment, I allowed myself to forget about everything that had brought me here. The pain, the loss, the broken pieces of life I never thought I could piece back together. But here we were, together, whole in a way I had never imagined. The sky was painted with shades of pink and gold, as if the universe itself was sending us a message of peace, of healing. I turned to look at Ava, her eyes focused on the children, a smile playing on her lips. There was a warmth in her expression that made my heart swell with love and gratitude. She had a way of making the world feel brighter, lighter, even when the weight of the past lingered in the corners of my mind. "I never thought I would get here," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking the truth out loud might shatter the moment. After everything, I didn't think I could love again. Ava turned to me then, her gaze soft but unwavering. "You did," she said simply. "You loved again. You let me in, Ryan." Her words cut through me like a breath of fresh air, as if she had unlocked a part of me that had been buried, hidden away in the darkness of grief. I squeezed her hand, feeling the pulse of her warmth, the steady rhythm of her heartbeat that matched mine in perfect sync. "And now we have this," I continued, glancing back at the kids. "This life, This family. Ava's eyes followed my gaze, and I saw the same recognition in them. A family, a real one, not a shadow of what could have been, but something real and beautiful, built on the foundation of what we had fought for, our love, our commitment, and our shared history. It wasn't easy and it wasn't perfect, but it was ours. I thought back to the early days when I had been broken, lost in the echoes of Emily's absence. The pain had been suffocating. I had felt like I would never breathe again, never truly live. But somehow, Emily's departure, as tragic as it was, had opened the door for Ava to walk in, for her to show me that there was life after the storm, that love could still find its way into my broken heart. The kids came running back toward us, their laughter filling the air, and I couldn't help but laugh along with them. They were the light in our lives, a constant reminder that love never truly leaves. It transforms, it grows, and it brings new hope even after the darkest days. Ava leaned her head on my shoulder, and I could feel the peace radiating from her. "I'm so glad I found you, Ryan," she murmured, her voice a soft melody in the quiet evening. I pressed a kiss to her forehead, feeling the weight of the moment, the weight of everything we had been through, and how far we had come. "I'm glad you found me too, Ava. You saved me in ways I'll never be able to explain." We sat there in silence for a few minutes, just taking all in, the kids, the evening, the life we had built together. The memories of Emily, of what I had lost, were no longer a haunting presence in my heart. They were a part of me, yes, but they were no longer my defining story. My story was now one of healing, of love, and of second chances. As the night crept in, the stars began to twinkle above, and I felt a deep sense of peace settle over me. Ava was right beside me, and I knew that no matter what came next, we would face it together. Life broke me. I whispered into the quiet night, my voice a reflection of everything I had been through. Love rebuilt me. She left me. But somehow, her final gift was sending me the person who would love me even harder. And with that, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had found my peace. I had found my home. And for the first time in a long time, I was truly content, knowing that the future was waiting for us, together,